Afternoon, Alex. How are we, my friend?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very, very good. Um, I find it quite funny how we met on, in
First
Bondi
impression.
in Bondi Beach in the best set of budgie smugglers I've ever seen.
Oh,
These leopard
absolutely,
skin
mate.
budgie smugglers, and it just happens to be that me going over to you guys like that was the first time I've done that. I've actually
Oh, really?
gone over to a group,
Right, okay.
and yeah, and it was. I've been talking about it to my missus because all this kind of social media outreach and doing these things, I've never done it before. I've started, the last year
Yeah,
because I've come from a corporate background, done what I've done, and you know, because of what we're doing with this purpose and mission, people have been saying, "Look, you're gonna have to start putting yourself out there more." And I've been going, "Oh fucking hell, here we go,"
yeah,
because it's like it's a barrier to entry. You can feel like you're really putting yourself out there. You
yeah,
can, you've got that thing of what do people think of me and stuff. And I'd mentioned to me, Missus, I really want to do this because I think it's authentic to talk to men and say, "Hey, how are you doing?
yeah.
What's going on?" And just see what comes of it. And it was my Missus on the day. I bumped into my mate Marty, who was with us, and my Missus said, "You should just do it now." And it was at the spur of the moment. I thought, "Oh fuck
Yeah,
it."
yeah, yeah.
I thought I'm going to do it, and I seen you in your speedos. I thought he's got to be all right. So, so I just walked over to you guys. So for anybody listening, I just bumped into this random guy on the beach in Bondi, and what really stood out for me when I did, because I said to you, "Look, have you got any things going on in your world or any major struggles that you had?" And you kind of paused for a minute. And you kind of you had this positive energy, and you kind of said, "Well, not really." You dug a little deep and said, "Well, actually, I've just had a big injury, but actually, I've got a way of dealing with things." And I felt that straight away, and I thought that's pretty cool. There's somebody here because I have a lot of people on the podcast who've suffered the extremities of life. They've had some really dark experiences, um, traumas, a lot of abuse, and that's where iron can be forged there. You know what I mean? The resilience can come in those times of pain, but we also don't have to experience that. And again, part of my mission, we've got men, we're moving into women, we already do business, and ultimately there'll be children. And I believe once children understand what being a human being is and how to manage emotions and situations, if we can get to children early enough, they're not going to carry the same traumas that a lot of us have to experience. And I think the human experience can be a little bit more enjoyable. We definitely grow in pain, and will always be shit coming at us, but I think it can be less painful. So I'm really interested to talk to you, maybe on a different slant, about someone who seems to be navigating life pretty well, with the ups and downs, and understand, what are you doing to do that, and maybe we can assist a few people with your kind of techniques. So, bit of an overview. So, without further ado, my friend, who are you? How old are you? And what made you into the man you are today? A little bit about your background, mate.
Yeah, cool, mate. My name's Alex, first of all, for anyone watching. Most people call me Sheep. I had like elbow sort of length hair back when I was about 10, 11, and it was blonder than it is now. So it was nearly white. So naturally just kind of came about. I am 27. Yeah, 27. I have to try and figure that out pretty much every time I get asked. So I'm from Bradford originally, good up north, and I moved over to Australia March this year, 2025. But this is my fifth time being here. And to be honest, I think looking sort of going back to what you said about how you are looking further on in business to focus on children and sort of how shaping their upbringing can have huge influence on what they're like as a adult. That largely plays into, I think, why I am the way that I am, why I am quote unquote the man that I am today, is because I think I realized from an extremely early age, like what I don't want to be like when I'm older and what I do want to be like when I'm older. And I think there were so many ways in which I was parented, the friends that I had around me, the sort of upbringing that I had that allowed me to realize those things early on. Whereas like a lot of people in their formative years, when they are younger, they're told that they're not allowed to cry. They're told that they're not allowed to speak. They're told that they are not allowed to show any sort of signs of weakness or trauma or anything like that. Whereas I just simply did not have that experience. And the reason why that I'm able to overcome the albeit smaller adversities that I do experience pretty easily and pretty quickly is, because I was taught as a kid, the ways of doing so. And I was young enough to become self-aware that the sort of traits that I knew I didn't want to have, I could work on by getting therapy, by getting help, by speaking to people. So I think I've developed a bit of a bulletproof set of coping mechanisms to deal with bad things when they happen. Because I haven't been through any really major trauma or adversity, but like everyone else, there are things in which I could definitely be sad about, like lots of major injuries, lots of major breakups, lots of dreams I had when I was younger that I was told that I would never be able to do, and had to sort of accept that extremely quickly and navigate a different path pretty early on as well. And I think I've, like I said, developed some pretty cool ways of dealing with that are pretty efficient.
Yeah, we'll delve into them a little bit more. So, you grew up in, do you say Bradford?
Yeah.
Yeah. And from a pretty decent upbringing, mum and dad together, still together?
Yeah, still together now.
Yeah. Any brothers or sisters?
3 sisters, 1 foster sister.
Okay. All get along?
Yeah, well, you know what? That's funnily enough the part of it. It's a love-hate relationship. Like, we love each other to bits. I'd take a bullet for them all, but when we're together, it's heated.
And is that the same? And what about with your parents? All good there?
Yeah, they're absolutely fine. I mean, I think I established from a pretty young age that my mum and dad were sort of together just for the sake of us being kids. It's not a very romantic relationship, and them two being together have taught me exactly how I would like my relationships to be in the future. And they've shaped sort of what my views are on marriage and monogamy and long term relationships as well. So that was a bit of a tricky one to navigate as a kid, figuring out like how parents are supposed to love each other, how people are supposed to show affection, and how people are supposed to deal with romance, because I feel, lost sort of romantic feelings for each other a long time ago.
How old were you when you were kind of starting to become aware of that and navigating that?
I think early high school, so probably in like my early teenage years, like 13, 14, 15, because you go to your mate's house or you go on, maybe little holidays or something like that. You see how other couples are. You see how close other people sit to each other at the dinner table. You see like little displays of physical affection. You see at Christmas, like what they bought each other and things like that. And I was just constantly comparing my mum and dad's relationship to everyone else's. And I was being like, oh, why aren't mine doing that? Why aren't mine kissing each other? Why aren't mine hugging each other? Why am mine always arguing with each other, sort of thing? So, yeah, I figured out pretty early that that's just not how relationships are supposed to be.
Oh, it's interesting because, again, rightly or wrongly, we're programmed by our parents and our surroundings. And I think I always say people can have a level of consciousness like 1 to 5. And for you to be aware that early and to try to navigate means you'd probably be high on that level of consciousness and emotional intelligence and awareness. Some people aren't. And then they just that they accept that that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what they bring into the kind of realm as they grow older, that's how relationships kind of look to them and form, and they don't even know why. It's because they think that's what it is, and they kind of almost get drawn to that.
Yeah.
And I was similar because my mum and dad love each other very much, but I think my dad was abandoned when he was, I think, 9 years of age. His mum, who's not alive anymore, literally walked out, went to go shops and never turned up, never came back, left him with his dad. So my dad had this massive kind of abandonment and stuff probably within there.
Yeah.
So how he displays affection is he's very very guarded. And then I watched that with my mum and dad, and then my mum stepped more into a masculine because of this thing. And I watched this dynamic. There's a real, obviously, deep level love, but I don't think they would never have got into what's my love languages and how do we understand each other and get this. And so I look at that and I've always thought there's two people there who deeply love each other,
Mm.
but they're clouded in all of the program,
Yeah.
and they've never done the work to actually make themselves enjoy this relationship.
Yeah.
It could be beautiful if they would actually understand, oh, I can have this existence in a different way by communicating, having, understanding what I want out of a relationship,
Yeah.
give and take, and I think there's a lot I could almost watch from afar, similar to what you said. It's almost like un, kind of communicated expectations built resentment and kept them here.
Yeah.
So I think that's really an important part to play. And I think you've got to have a level of awareness to just do it yourself. But do you think that there's a lot of people out there or kids that given or assisted at an earlier age, it would really help them when they were younger?
Oh my God, yeah. Like I just think so many of your ways of thinking, thought processes, habits, behaviors are formed within that, early developmental stage. I mean, I'm sure there is a lot of psychological science to back this up, but, so many of the ways in which I communicate, the ways in which I reflect on things, the questions that I ask, the ways that I approach situations are all the same as what I was encouraged to do as a kid. And like you find that with everyone, if you're from like a totally authoritarian family where you're never told to question anything, you're punished for asking the question why, you're not allowed to question your parents' behavior or disagree with anything that they've said, that is going to feed into your ability to confront people later on in life, or be able to tell someone that you don't like the way that they're treating you, or maybe just even ask questions to teachers when you get to school and all these other things. And I am so incredibly fortunate in that I was supported in my pursuit of doing that when I was younger. I was encouraged to ask why all the time. I was
Right.
encouraged to disagree with everyone. I was, with my teachers, I was, told in pretty much every report that I'm incredibly polite, but I disagree with everything that they're saying all the time. And I felt
Good.
I yeah, exactly. And I like did it in a polite way. I said my P's and T's. I was, really happy, but I was always asking like, why are we doing this? Why are we not doing that? Why? And, in my later life now, it means that I'm able to conflict resolve better. I'm able to approach confrontation in a way that is not aggressive. And I'm, easily able to ask for things that I want and talk about things that I don't want and have those sorts of conversations with my friends and partners as well. So I just think if you don't have that opportunity as a kid and you're not ever told to reflect on how you think, or you're always told that you're wrong, or you're always told that, never disrespect your elders and always listen to, what your parents say, things like that. I just think that will provide a whole host of issues going into adult life.
I love that. I think that's such a powerful kind of statement, and you really articulated that well. Because effectively, if we all we would then do is allow ourselves to be a program of whoever is programming us,
Hmm.
and that's not us.
Yeah.
So what you've been given the opportunity to discover life yourself, try and stay to your authentic self, and move and shake around. And I think the school system the society can create just churn out people
Mm.
based on whatever's going on, whether it's media, government, school. We've got to be able to. It's almost like human beings have forgotten who we are.
Yeah.
And I look at up and coming men now, and I've a few people in my circumference at the moment, and looking at the way social media and all this stuff is affecting people with their attention span.
Yeah.
I'm watching kids. I remember when I was younger, obviously we didn't have the same distractions, but it's probably similar to yourself. I was very aware of shit going on in my family. My older brother was causing a lot of problems younger. I was kind of trying to conflict resolve from like 9 years of age. So I
Yeah.
was constantly trying to keep peace in stuff. So I was naturally doing that. But I think kids now are they've lost the art of communication.
Oh
They
my
don't
God.
understand themselves. And what you're talking about there is I'm seeing the complete opposite. I'm seeing people losing human skills and becoming just becoming like a machine belt of the same type of people who don't understand themselves, and it's just pumping out anxiety, depression, because we talk about suicidality for men being the leading cause of death. It's decreasing over the years since the iPhone came in. That age, say it was in the 20s to 45, it's now 15 to 45, and the mental health crisis keeps reducing with age. So, are you seeing that yourself?
Oh my, like, I mean, again, extremely fortunately for me, none of my best friends or anyone really close to me has killed themselves. But I think there's 5 people that I've been to school with that have killed themselves now, like roughly the same age as me. And
Wow.
it's, I'm not sure what was going on behind closed doors there. I didn't know them well enough to even comment on it. But it almost doesn't surprise me, as, pessimistic as that is to say, because I mean, first of all, I think social media, as good as it is in so many ways and in all the ways that it brings people together, I think the overconsumption of it can lead to such a warped view of reality. Like you should be earning more, you should be doing more, you should be looking better, you should be, you know, you've got so much overstimulation and so many people telling you that you should do all of these things and not do all of these things. You've got to reply to 30 people in your inboxes at any given time. Like, it's a job to just be on social media, right? On top of whatever job you actually do. And, me and you both work in social media. So I know you know what I'm talking about with that. Like, it's so severe. So I am unsurprised now that so many people are feeling inadequate. So many people are feeling like, they are unsuccessful related to their peers, or they're not going on enough holidays, or their relationship is in a poor position, or that they even need to be in a relationship. It's, the people who I know who don't have social media, which there are a few people now, seem like the happiest people on the planet. And I get it. I do get it.
No, I couldn't agree more. So it's almost like you're the walking example of being educated early and giving the opportunity to understand yourself, ask questions, kind of understand what's going inside, experience your emotions, release them, and then you are here today actually trying to help others, but in a position where you can say, I've done this. I've done the path that, quote unquote, would be the best way to do it. I'm fucking and it's really helped, right? You've kind of felt like you've gone through life. I'm sure you've experienced bumps, but if you always manage to maintain kind of a positive mindset throughout your kind of life through those bumps.
Nah, I think there was a period probably in my late teens where I really had to understand how to self-reflect and understand where the gaps and the flaws were in my personality, because I started to see traits in me that I started to see in my dad. And my dad has dealt with depression. He has had, he's been on antidepressants for a very long time. He's had to have several medications. He's rejected therapists and everything else. And, I go see him now. I love him to absolute bits, but he's not a happy man. Always sees the pessimistic side in things, and that has an impact on their relationship as well. So I see all of that, and I am very much my dad's son. I have a lot of his traits, and I recognize which ones I kind of want to keep hold of and are beneficial to me and everyone around me, and I recognize which ones I definitely don't want to enhance. So I learned that in my sort of late teen years, because I let some things that did happen, some things that I didn't like, sort of consume me and contribute to the way that I dealt with other people, the way that I approached work, the way that I communicated. I recognized those things straight away because I was taught to be self-aware as a kid, and I was told to reflect. Recognized those things straight away and immediately started to work on them. So I got therapy. I was, talking to my friends about this stuff.
At what age were you getting therapy?
21, I think.
Nice. Yeah.
21 was when I first got it. I loved it, to be honest. Like, I enjoy talking about this stuff. I enjoy it when my friends talk to me about it. I enjoy talking about it to them. Like, if you were to ask any of my best friends, right? Like, I have a great circle of people. If you were to ask any of them if I've ever spoke to them about my feelings, I have multiple times. I've rung them all for hours on end, spoken to them about it in the same way that they've done the exact same thing to me. So because I've been encouraged and I've practiced the art of speaking, like, getting therapy was literally just like me and you are having a podcast now. It was no problem. It required very little effort, and it provided me so many external insights that I wouldn't have come up with myself. It provided me book recommendations that I could read that helped me out as well. Like, it encouraged ways of thinking that I'd never spoken before, breath work. I even did hypnotherapy for a little bit. And all of that together has now meant that when I see microdoses of those traits that I really didn't want to get from my dad, like, I can pick it up straight away, and I've got tools to help deal with it and navigate me down a different path.
Oh, that's incredible. It still goes down to, you know, the program from your parents to when you've felt yourself in that dip, when you felt that this isn't feeling good, or I'm looking at something, then to take the action with that kind of open mind, open heart to kind of say, okay, I don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
You've really been set up for success from a child.
Yeah.
I think that's the root. You know, go back to root when we're talking symptom. Well, the root is you've got fucking, you know, weapons in your arsenal
Yeah.
to be able to tackle these things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's, as he said, if you can encourage, first of all, your child to talk and be able to talk, right? And if you can be, I think one thing that really helped me is, especially my mum, in fact, my dad as well, they got on my level a little bit. I think this, I'm not going to claim as if I know anything about being a parent. Obviously, I don't. This is completely individual. But my mum got down on my level. She told me about all the shit that she did when she was at school and when she was my age. She told me about, like, habits that she had with drugs. We even spoke, this might be weird, but we even spoke about our sex life with each other a little bit. I told her about the people I was sleeping with. So, like, I had this relationship with my mum where I could tell her anything. She'd never judge me. She'd never tell me, like, she would recommend to do stuff and not to do stuff, but she encouraged open communication. So did my dad, right? Ultimately, if I feel comfortable doing that with my parents when I'm younger, I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable doing it with strangers, with kids, with therapists, with teachers, with anyone else that's going to have an influence on my character going forward. So, like, if you can just get that trait and encourage that trait as a kid, alongside self-reflection, so that they're able to actually take that feedback from that communication on. Because if you're able to communicate, but you're poor at receiving conflict or criticism or feedback, that communication might not be so effective. But if you can encourage the ability to take on feedback, the ability to take on constructive criticism, the ability to conflict and ask why, as well as the ability to communicate, that kid's going to be all right. I think. Anyway, that might sound like I'm blowing smoke up my own ass.
No. I think it's really powerful. There's a guy I had on recently, Dave Smith, the Mindset Soldier, and he was talking about how he parents, and it was very similar to what you've just described. He meets his children, he actually drops physically down to their level.
Yeah.
He'll whisper in their ear, "No, that's not very good.
Yeah.
Your sister or your brother's being like this. Maybe we could do this." Giving them the, guidance rather than fear. And what you've just described, I do a lot of leadership coaching. I've ran businesses, and what you've just described is kind of leadership 101. It's like if somebody comes through to me and tells me something that they've cocked up with, right? If I give them a load of shit, they're going to hide from me. I will never find another problem within that area of the business again, because they'll be shitting themselves that I'm going to beat them up. And not physically. So it's leadership 101 is to keep that open door, because you have a direct line of sight to the business, you have a direct line of sight to your son, your daughter, and you can help guide them. And that's like coaching. So parenting is, again, not being a parent, my partner has 2 kids, so I'm in and around the kids and watching what goes on, you know what I mean? But I think it almost feels like it's coaching, right? And I think sometimes there can be that, different approach to children that I see sometimes. And social media just doesn't affect the kids. You see it affecting the parents, it's fucking shove that iPad in front of the kid, right? To keep them quiet. But it never used to happen in the past. Now, I understand it gives people a break now, but it didn't happen in the past because it wasn't there.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it? Because, like, if I think about myself in their position, would I do the same thing? Probably. Like,
exactly.
It's there. I hate it, man. I hate it, but I don't know how to combat it.
Yeah, but in amongst all of this, it just feels like why I'm doing what I'm doing, you'll do what you do. I feel like humans have become more and more disconnected, and that disconnection, losing the art of communication. And when you're disconnected, lose the art of communication. Humanity is just fucking. That's why the rise in suicidality, why the mental health crisis is going through the roof. I think those two key things, and we need to bring it back. Remember who the fuck we are as humans, you know.
And it's
Because
only that. Another thing, like if you think about conflict on the whole, which is where so many communication systems break down, especially as Brits, like maybe not so much in Liverpool, maybe not so much in Bradford, but across the whole in the UK, we're really bad at disagreeing with each other. We're really bad at saying, actually, no, I don't like that. Maybe this is a little bit, a little bit better of an approach. So that when we do disagree, when we do have conflict or whatever, it blows up into this huge thing that just encourages more miscommunication later down the line. So I think another thing with your kids is like if you can show them how to disagree with each other properly, and you can show them how to have a debate or quote unquote argument without shouting. Like you said, the guy who you had on before, where, when he didn't like that they were doing something, he'd get down the level, whisper in their ear, and encourage that as a form of communication. In other countries, like whenever I've traveled, because I lived in Vietnam for a bit, I lived in Bali for a little bit, like you see how other like people from foreign countries communicate with each other when they don't like something, and it's just a conversation. And you know how in the UK, for example, let's say someone invites you out for lunch or someone, for dinner or something like that, you really don't want to go, right? You won't just say, no, sorry, I don't want to do that. You never do that in a million years, because like that'd be so rude, it'd be awful, they'd be chatting behind your back as a result of you saying that. But in reality, like that is true. You just don't want to go, and that's fine. In other countries, they do. I remember I was best friends with this Dutch girl, and she would do it to people all the time, and I'd be watching her like, no way have you just said that? And she was like, what? I didn't want to do that. I disagreed with that. And I think we can learn so much from the art of disagreeing with each other and, having, appropriate conflict. But I think that plays another huge part in it. And I think that is why so many people struggle to communicate, because they're so afraid of the other person feeling prosecuted or feeling guilty, or, the whole thing blowing up. It's why a lot of, relationships break down, because one tiny thing blows up into this huge argument.
You're spot on. I've said this time and time again on here, but what you've just described to me is the leading cause of pain for men.
Mm.
It's in that love and relationships pillar. So what I've found is I always say the two questions that we ask. Question number one is, do you understand your non-negotiable values in the relationship? The second question is, have you communicated that with your partner? Have you had that discussion? It's like 80% are kind of, I'm not unsure or no to question number one.
Yeah.
And it's like 90 to 95% are like no on the second one.
Yeah.
So what happens is, as we've just described, whether it's just like any relationship, whether it's business relationship, children, friendships, romantic, what happens is, as you've just described, there's a lot of people, and we're going to talk about men here, who, if you don't understand yourself, but you have this kind of need for something, and then you're not communicating, what happens is boundaries just get crossed left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And if you're like, fuck, and it pisses you off, you then don't know how to communicate it. So this resentment builds and it becomes too big. And in romantic relationships, people can go out of a relationship and they've never set themselves up for success because they've never even communicated it. And you could if you lean in. It's like, and again, I'm laughing because I didn't get it right till I was 46.
Yeah.
I'm 48 years old. I did it with my only relationship now.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I was like, right, why do I keep going in and out of relationships for 3 or 4 years? What the fuck am I doing wrong here?
Yeah.
So that self-reflection at the beginning, this is what I want a relationship. This is, who I am. I actively looked for it. And then when I got the thing that I thought, there's some feelings here, I implemented the boundaries discussion. Hey, this is me. This is what I'm about. These are my boundaries. And it allowed us to have a baseline to go back to. And I communicated early. So it was soft and, there was no kind of, hey, I actually was okay to give and take a little bit. And we regularly come back to there. But I think what we're touching on here is, and you're right to highlight it, it's inherently causing humanity a lot of pain in all areas, because I think it's communication. Communication fucks everything up because we're not very good at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's warped behind, like, social media is making that worse and worse. I think some social media is inherently changing how we communicate with each other, and like so much of our messaging now is subliminal, and it's trying to interpret an Instagram story, or it's trying to interpret a fucking emoji, or the amount of time a reply takes, or the amount, there's just so many nuances to how we communicate outside of just verbal conversation now that it's exhausting.
I
Exhausting to
know.
try to figure
I,
out.
I know. I know. So, do you mention one of the things you mentioned there before was, I think it touched on you had a few breakups in your time. Um, did you? Because although you've said, oh, I haven't had too much traumatic experience, I believe breakups are like grieving. They can be like a loss.
Yeah,
If you genuinely love somebody and you break up and you're not at peace with that, even if you are, the uncoupling process can be really, really difficult.
yeah,
And I always say, your greatest pain is your greatest pain. There's no kind of comparison. It just is. So they can always be a real struggle. So how did did you have any, problematic or, really kind of upsetting breakups?
yeah. So both of them actually. The last one was extremely messy. She was quite large on social media, and the whole relationship from start to finish was on social media. So it was almost like I was sort of playing a character in a story, essentially. Which at first I actually quite enjoyed. It was like my first experience of being on social media. I was like, wow, you got all these comments and people liking the video and you're getting compliments. Like, it's great if you're like a little movie star. But then as kinks in the relationship started to show, the content slowly started to change as well, and the content sort of started controlling the relationship. It was a really unique experience of a relationship for me. And in the end, like, if I reflect back on it now, we just were not designed for each other. And we started dating during COVID, when our interests aligned a little bit more. We were spending more quality time together. This was also when I started my own business. And a lot of the work that I do now, she was not a fan of. She didn't agree with it. She didn't just like it. She didn't like the time it took up, or the people that I was working with. Um, and I just think the relationship mainly brought down to communication. Yeah, again, like you said, establishing each other's non-negotiables and figuring out whether they actually line up, figuring out love languages. So this was before I even knew what a love language was, what different categories of affections existed. It was before I ever read attachment theory for the first time. Like, I just knew nothing about this, and she was a lot more emotionally intelligent than I was. Ultimately, I was able to self-regulate, able to be self-aware, but I didn't understand how to interpret her emotions and behavior very well. So when that ended, it was a lot of communication still back and forth, which was a bad thing. Like, we still were talking constantly because of all this social media stuff. She was posting lots of videos about me, and like, I would log on to I don't use TikTok anymore. It was all on TikTok, and I haven't downloaded the app for years now for that reason, just because it would be that I'm literally talking thousands of comments of just like hate. I'd get like random people follow me. They'd find out who I was dating new, and then they would start messaging those people.
What the hell? What a
Yeah.
fucked up society we live
Yeah.
in.
There was, I think a few like my family members were messaged. There was like some accounts that would, like fake accounts that they'd create who were messaging my family members, like basically saying like dirt that they've got on them and things like that, all just from this breakup. And that wasn't her fault. That wasn't, she didn't intend for that to happen. That wasn't malicious from her part, but that was the collateral damage from just having such an exposed relationship online.
Well, that's massive because that it can feel like an attack coming at you every day. You kind of be in that fight or flight. You'll be protective of your relatives, your friends, and things coming through. That'd be really destabilizing and really kind of really affect your nervous system. How did you deal with it? How did what tools did you pull out your arsenal to
Yeah.
get yourself past that?
I mean, that was a lot of therapy. And I think, you know what, my initial response to anything that goes wrong is I internalize the fault of it pretty much immediately. And this, you could argue this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I kind of immediately assume it's my fault. And then once I've done that, I feel like that almost deflects my ability to avoid it, if that makes sense. Like, if I assume that everything that's gone wrong is immediately my fault, then I have to rectify it by improving some part about me or how I think about it or behave about it. So that's immediately what I did. I hired another therapist, I had a hypnotherapist, and I worked immediately on what I thought I did wrong in that relationship to make it break down. Like, reflecting on it more and more in the future, the more and more I realized, like, I wasn't completely at fault for this, but at the time that actually brought me some peace because it made me feel like I was, improving in some way. Whereas now I realize, like, the therapy was great, but there were some issues that I internalized that I didn't need to, I think. But yeah, received a lot of therapy about it, worked on basically validating myself again and, essentially achieving some form of self-worth through external behaviors, and ultimately just learning more about attachment theory, learning more about emotional regulation, and learning about how I can deal with behaviors that she displayed in future relationships.
Fuck yeah. I love that. Accountability.
That's it.
Why would you outsource your kind of life direction, your success, your how fulfilled you're going to be to others?
Yeah.
It's counterproductive. But the amount of people who sit in, I don't want to say victim mentality, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
When you kind of outsource your you basically, a lot of people outsource their whole life to people. It's their fault. They fucked me off. The boss was a dickhead. They never listened to me. My ex is an asshole. My kids don't love me. That. All of this
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
right? When you flip it up, I always say, effectively, I always want to. My mind always wants to go to root, right? To sort of
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we are the result of X amount of kind of decisions, actions, and momentum. And when you kind of say back, so you're in a relationship, well, actually, yeah, they're an ass, but where did all this start? And then you can go back
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, if I want to take accountability, did I come in and really set my boundary? That, as we said before, that's why I think those first two, I'm trying to go source all the time.
Yeah.
Those first two are going to set you up for success. And if that person, then you've got your kind of your baseline. Once they start crossing, again, now that's on you to communicate to that person
Yeah.
and then do it in a way that connects to that person. Ultimately, you may need to, some relationships, friendships, business partners, you might need to dissolve,
Yeah.
move on because it doesn't work. But it's in your control rather than what a lot of people do. They wait. If this is where the problem gets really identified, that this ain't going to work.
Yeah.
Most people wait till over here until it blows up, and then it's a shit show, and they're an asshole. So I love your way of thinking. The immediate thought is to go to I'm accountable. No, that's pretty impressive.
I just think if that's your immediate response, I feel like you become so much more proactive. Like, you search for resolutions so much quicker if you presume it's your fault, because then you develop a little bit of guilt about it and a little bit of fear that it might happen again. Whereas if you blame someone else for it, it's like you're accepting that nothing needs to change ever, like, because, that must be something wrong with them. And I think the reason why I lean into that so much is because I know how it sounds when other people, like, for example, you hear about some other person's relationship, like, oh, they're a fucking psychopath. Like, they were just an absolute psycho, like, loony, like, they were just weird, wouldn't let me go out, wouldn't let me do this and that. And all I think about in my head is, like, that has stemmed from something, right? You wouldn't have entered a relationship with this person if that's what they were like. So they've either, begun developing those characteristics over time down to something that you've done, or due to a lack of, communication, like you said, or something. So I don't want to be the person that is telling everyone else how bad my ex-girlfriend is. I don't want to be that person, because that to me sounds like you said, victim mentality, but it also just sounds like you're not willing to take accountability for anything that you've done wrong.
I absolutely love that. It's like I've obviously got X amount of X's, and they're X's for a reason. But in all of those, I knew very early on that it wasn't right for me.
Yeah.
In here,
Yeah.
in my gut, right? I knew, and I didn't take the necessary steps because of what you said earlier on. The fear, the fear of, oh, I'm going to upset somebody. The
Yeah.
fear of, I've now got to walk through this painful period of time to get to the other side. I
Yeah.
can't be asked facing that. I'll sit here, bury my head in the sand,
Yeah.
get on the piss, party at the weekends, forget about it. And I've done that time and time again when deep down I knew that wasn't right. So as much as, things have cropped up which I might perceive is real wrongdoing towards me, poor behaviours and all that, my accountability is, fuck me, this is my life. I'm the author of my story. I
Hey.
knew this early on. I didn't take action. More fool you, numbnuts. So look at myself in the mirror and go, don't do this again. And I laugh because it's not easy. And like yourself, I'm relatively aware, and I was aware I was doing it. So I wouldn't do these things in business, for example. I'll hold people accountable straight away, hold boundaries. But when it was me and it was like love and you're moving in with people and all this type of stuff, I would then focus on work sometimes to distract me from that thing that
Yeah.
I knew I would have to do. So there's a lot of men out there in the exact same problem what you're saying, and then they sit in this loop, fucking they're a nightmare, they're this, that, and the other, and it's like they're in their own prison. So they go to work, they focus on certain other things, and then they come home, and it's like they're going home to the prison warden,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
they'll tell
that's how
every
it's described, isn't it? That's what you feel. Sometimes you're like, do you even fucking like this person?
exactly,
Yeah.
and what they do is, and I know there's people in my circle, especially back home, who have who will go and find sensitive ears to tell people about the shit, and they'll spend like 200 hours a year telling other men about the problem with their relationship,
Yeah.
but not invested 1 hour in actively trying to do something with that, trying to communicate differently, implement some boundaries,
Yeah.
trying to understand how can I connect to this person. Instead, they'll get on the piss, the ego's running light, and they'll have a fight in the drink,
Yeah.
which happens a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And then it's like just chipping away at the relationship, and they're not even there's no opportunity for growth there, so it ultimately demises. And
Yeah.
I know because I've been there. Have you seen that kind of analogy happening?
Well, I actually just wanted to ask you, like, what was the catalyst to that behavior actually changing then? Because behavior change is so much harder, as I'm sure you know, like the longer you keep repeating that same cycle of behavior. So if you were doing that for so long, like, how did you actually overcome the ability to stop doing that?
Yeah, well, mine was a big kind of awakening to what I was doing. I realizing I think I was 45 years age when I realized, I was 6 years into a relationship. Beautiful person, beautiful person. Got her own backstory of her traumas, being let down by family and
Yeah.
this, that, and the other, finding her way. But I knew early on, as beautiful as a human being she is, we weren't a match, right?
Okay.
For the long term. But I was in it. I was in it early. I found myself. I was drinking and partying at the time, so it was all like honeymoon. Next minute, we're living together because of some circumstances, and then we kind of go on. When I came out, when the kind of, and then I was, that the business that I talked to you about before, running three
Yeah.
venues, moving around, just distracting, working 7 days a week, then on the piss when I was off, and creating stuff and kind of knowing that was there, but just kind of leaving it.
Yeah.
When I kind of came into, and it was like 45, had the breakup, and I was like, I'm 45 years of age. What am I doing? I
Yeah.
don't want to do this thing. I don't want to do this again. And then what I did, I went to type. I was a bit lonely. I moved back to Coogee. I was on the Northern Beaches for a period of time.
Yeah.
Moved back to Coogee, which feels like home. And then I started going on the piss again. I'd kind of slowed down drinking. I've never been, a major alcoholic, I said, but I used to party mad in the UK. All
Yeah.
the stuff that you do at the weekends, drink, party, stay up for 2 days, all that crap. But
Yeah.
I never did that over here. I was kind of just, go out on a Saturday, get on the piss, pull girls when I was single. So I went to do that again. And it lasted for about 4 weeks or whatever. And then I found myself in a group of people that weren't my people,
Okay.
just acquaintances. And it was this huge, like, I'm there drinking tequilas because I want to have the Dutch courage to go and talk to these girls in a club, and it's like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, I've done this so many times. And it
Yeah.
was just this awakening. There's nothing here for me anymore. And I looked at the people who were around me, and no offense to them, that aren't on my frequency. They just, there's no connection there. I felt like I had to just kind of get pissed to be dumb to experience this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And I just backdoored it, and I came home. I've described this before. I came home and I came home and I was upstairs, and I just burst out crying. I
Yeah.
just burst out crying, and I was sobbing for about half an hour to myself. I was living by myself, and I was sobbing. I actually repeated overly, "I'm so lonely."
Yeah.
And it was just coming out where I was distracted. So for years I've been in a relationship which, again, beautiful human being, nothing against it, we just went right. But in a relationship that wasn't right, surrounded by people sometimes that I could feel lonely in amongst 20 people. So
Yeah.
for years I'd been distracting myself from all this work and all that. And because I'd created the business a position where I could back off a little bit and have a bit of freedom, I then had to face myself. And I went, right, I need to do something with this. So I had time, like, away from 7 days a week, calmed down business, doing a bit of coaching. So I focused on myself, and I thought, right, I can't do this again. I can't be coaching other people, doing all this stuff, and then not forget about me.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd been doing. So I made this conscious decision I'm not going to do it. Eventually stopped drinking totally. And then I was coaching some men as well. And some of the men I was coaching were inspiring me,
Yeah.
because they'd had some problems with, like, drink and drugs and this, that, and the other. And then, like that, using the methodology, we talk about the 5 pillars, within like 4 weeks, like, one guy, a powerhouse, close friend of mine now, stopped drinking, stopped taking drugs, bought a dog, bought a van, went camping, fucking living the life, Riley, and just grabbing life by the horns. And I'm like, fucking hell,
Yeah.
I want a bit of that myself.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
know what I mean. So it was like, it was this little dark corner, because I'd done so much work and a lot of other things on myself, but it was this dark corner from a relationship perspective that I'd never done. And what you've described earlier on, to connect back to, it was not wanting to upset people. It's been sometimes being a bit of a people pleaser in
Mm-hmm.
a relationship business. I had that kick, but in a relationship, for some reason, when it was a love, where I know I was going to hurt someone as well, I
Yeah.
found that hard to do. And like your Dutch
Plus,
friend,
in business, it's normalized, isn't it? Like the idea of having this like aggressive boss is that's normal. That is the standard usually. Whereas in a relationship, like people do just stay in relationships when they're not serving them anymore. So like I think it is harder to be like that in a relationship than it is to be that in business. Like with my clients, like I know that I'm I'll find it easier to sort of communicate conflict with my clients, for example, than I will in relationships. Like it is harder. Like there's no two ways about it.
oh, 100%, mate. So yeah, it was this dark corner that I had to face, and eventually I faced it. And it's beautiful to set yourself up for success,
Mm,
and to do it properly. To set those boundaries, you've got to be prepared to hold your line.
mm,
You have to be prepared to hold your line. It's all well and good saying, this is what I like, and this is what means something to me, and da 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 da. You have to be prepared to protect your own energy. And that might mean, okay, well, the earlier you do it, the less attached you get, and the easier it will be for you to hold that line.
yeah,
And I think, because, again, even maybe I was getting older, I would set someone, I would, not, doing it a little bit better, but then I would waver because I was connected to the person. I actually enjoyed the company here or there.
yeah,
And there's, I knew, oh, it'll be all right, I'll fix it.
yeah,
But actually, I needed to hold my boundaries and my line more sternly, which is what I do now.
yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the idea that obviously you had to go to a dark place to do it, and massive props to you that to do that. But the idea that you've been able to change your outlook, your thought processes, your behavior that late into life, like that's so much harder to do than someone who is only just starting to figure things out, right? You had established behaviors that you developed over decades. To rewire that and to override it, that's fucking hard. Like, that's impressive.
I appreciate that. And then that again goes back to what we were saying before. This is why I'm so passionate about our young men, all men, but young men up and coming, children that we'll get to, just like what you've had. If we can educate people early enough, they're not going to have to go through all of that pain.
Yeah.
Because me, if I'm taking full accountability for me, I can also accept that I'm hating somebody else
Yeah.
because of my actions.
Yeah.
So as a human being, I don't want to affect anybody. So I know not only affected my own life, I've affected others. And I've had to like process that as well during my growth journey and go to some places where I've gone, no, you weren't really good there. You weren't really good there, mate. What happened there? Oh, you didn't really have a mentor. You're surrounded by peers who, you were getting the wrong messaging. That program sunk in. You knew you weren't right, Ian, but you went along with it. And, and I've had to kind of take that accountability for others as well. And although they have their own life, they're the author of their own story, they could have done what we're discussing to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to accept accountability for people I've affected in my life in relationships. And I think a lot of people don't need to go through that. And if one person, if one child like yourself at an early age understands the kind of ripple effect of some of their decisions and actions, that could solve 20 traumatic experiences. Because within your life, the ripple effect of one person carrying themselves in the fucking right way as a great human being and purposely not trying to hurt people, trying to do things the right way, communicating properly, holding strong boundaries, you're going to, because each time of massive breakup, it can cause a deep-rooted trauma that then might come up and affect multiple other people in other relationships. So just by getting more children, even if we got, the world's fucked right now, society isn't doing what we're talking about to the level it should. I believe if you had a humanity kind of subject in school from an early age, with, there's a book I have called The Four Agreements. I don't know if you've read it. If you haven't, read it. No. Perfect. Beautiful, simple, easy read. That book could be educated in school and given to different levels. Just that book alone would have a massive impact. I think it would reduce suicidality, it would improve mental health all over the place. And I don't think it's as hard as what, why aren't we fucking doing it?
Yeah, it's not. You're absolutely right. Like, just the art of having a little chat, the art of being honest, the art of being able to disagree. Like, it's not a difficult concept to grasp, especially if you are just teaching it to a kid. It's really not difficult to learn. You're absolutely right. It's like the answer to these problems, right there, right there. Like, we are. Yeah.
Because I'm a big believer in, because like what you said, why did you do that then? Because I got slapped across the face with the light bulb. The light bulb's on now. I can't turn it off because it's on. Once the light bulb comes on, you can't turn it off because you're fucking enlightened with this and you think, oh, fuck, And a lot of people go through the pain, then they get the light bulb and they're going like this, but they're getting smacked left, right and centre through life. So get the light bulb on in a nice fucking calm environment early and let people go through life a bit more smoother. And I guarantee the amount of reduction in traumatic experiences, or when they do come, being able to emotionally balance, understand what's going on, recover better, it would have such a drastic improvement on society today.
Yeah. I mean, because like you said, you had to literally be punched across the face with it to realize that you needed to change, whereas so many people are like the frog in boiling water. Do you know what I mean? Where they slowly turn it up and it's like nothing's ever quite bad enough for it to promote behaviour change. It might still be really shit, but it's not shit enough for them to change.
Throw a little bit more shit at me and I might think about it.
Yeah, it's like you're 99% there, but nothing just bad has happened enough. And it's like, it must be an exhausting way to live life. Like I've got some mates that, they do complain a little bit more than others. And my immediate response is like, just try to figure out ways for them to get over it. And I'm like, okay, so what are you doing about that thing that you don't like or anything, and just try to be proactive about it. Because that's what I'm like. If there is something that I really don't like, either it's something physical, like I'm, struggling with an injury or something like that, or it's something business wise. It's on a to-do list. It's straight away. It's like, every single week I map out the things in which I need to do in order to get better, or in order to improve in terms of fitness, in terms of coaching, in terms of finance, everything else. So I'm constantly trying to figure out ways to improve it, not figuring out ways to do less so that it builds up over time. And then I eventually have to do something when it becomes shit enough. It's like, if you can just catch these things early.
No, 100%. It's like it's the same, you can smell a problem in business and then you go, oh, fuck, I should do something with that. And you turn away next minute, fucking hell, it's cost you
Yeah.
X amount of grand because the
Yeah.
thing you knew you should have done and you prioritize something else. The same in your life, right? That's why I believe in what we're doing. But like creating, most people in business think about, business KPIs.
Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah.
5 pillars of fulfillment are a human KPI. We have a human KPI of fulfillment. What did you used to do when you were a kid that you don't do no more that really fucking give you such fucking fulfillment juice? Think about that. You know what I mean? Because it just drifts away. What's happened to your social connections when you were a kid? You used to play footy and have all these group of mates and you'd all have a banter and all that.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to a fucking mate in 4 weeks. You know what I mean? But as a human, we need that.
Yeah.
And it's like when it's in your face, men are sometimes very meat and potatoes. It's like when it's in your face, it's like, oh fuck yeah, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you doing? What are you doing now? With you're working with people now. What are you all about now? And what is it? How are you bringing your purpose into what you do?
What do you mean? Like, what do I do for work? Or
Yeah, from a work perspective, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I feel like the nature of who I am, I love working with people. I can't. I've tried a few warehousing jobs before where I get no social interaction throughout the day. Like, you couldn't pay me enough money to do that kind of work. Like, I need to work with people. So I've always been either within PE teaching or within personal training, or even like some bar work and some hospitality work. I enjoy as long as I'm working with people and in front of people and talking to people all the time. But for now, I have an online personal training business, which is why I'm able to do what I do in Australia, which is great. But to be honest, a lot of that comes into the realm of therapy a little bit as well. So it's all about trying to figure out from every single individual person's circumstances how to get the most out of them, right? Because I don't work with bodybuilders. I'm trying to get people into good shape. I'm trying to help people rehab from injuries. I'm trying to get them to return to sport, trying to get them stronger in the gym, prepare for marathons, whatever their athletic endeavor is. But each person needs a completely different approach. Some people need a softer approach. Some people need a harder approach. Some people need more communication. Some people need to be, laid off a little bit. So, like, I feel like the qualities and the attributes that I've developed from being reflective and from working with different mental health professionals in the past, that allows me to take a much more holistic approach to everyone when it comes to fitness. Because yeah, a lot of the principles within fitness are very simple: progressive overload, calorie deficit, take your creatine, do whatever. But, everyone responds to different feedback differently. You can't just give people macro and calorie targets and step targets and tell them to go do it and be upset when they don't. You've got to meet them where you're at. You've got to figure out, what their family life is like. You've got to figure out what their social life is like. You've got to figure out what their traumas at work are. You've got to figure out, how much stress they're experiencing each week, so you can figure out when to push forward, when to pull back, work out what the timeline is, everything. So I feel like the job that I've got now, it is my dream job. Like, I absolutely love it to bits. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with. And it plays into the traits that I've developed so far. So I'll probably be doing this for, I hope, decades to come.
I love that, mate. That's really cool. And look, I can see you're really emotionally intelligent, and your kind of proven track record to be so positive, go through life. And you spoke about it before. You have had breakups, which have been difficult. You've picked up on some, things that thing you described about your dad, where you saw real traits in him, which has led him down a path of depression and stuff like that, which for a son is traumatic because you're looking at the person you love going through that. but you've looked at that and almost been navigating your life, going, okay, I've got that. Need to use this weaponry to keep that one at bay and doing that. So you've developed something which I think is beautiful, and to be helping people with that, I think you're right. It's not just about health and fitness. It's up here,
Yeah.
because what you're doing is you're going to guide people to effectively feel more fulfilled in themselves. Is kind of where they're going to get to on your pathway. So, um, look, amazing chat. I could talk to you all day, but I'd just like to kind of wrap it up. What would,
Of course, man.
with all of the stuff that you've been through, what would your kind of, if you're going to leave something for any men out there, any struggling men, what would your biggest takeaway be, or what would your biggest piece of advice be to any struggling men out there?
It'd be the same thing every single time. It would be that your mates would love to hear from you. Your parents would love to hear from you. Anyone in your life that you consider an important figure, they will happily have a chat with you about anything, as much as you might think that they might not respond to it well. Like, even if, right, you've got a group of proper masculine men, footy lads, whatever, they still want the best for you, right? If they truly are your mates, they want the best for you. They want you to succeed in business. They want you to succeed in your relationship. They want you to be happy. They want you to be fulfilled. Have chats with them and keep in touch with them regularly, right? Me and my mates, every Thursday, we go for a little kickabout. Like when you used to play Red Arse, Heads and V's.
Yeah, yeah,
My mates still do. Like, we're all,
yeah.
Kevin, one of the lads is 30, and we meet up once a week for an hour to go play Red Arse. And it's great, right? I come away from that. It's the highlight of my fucking week. And I come away from it because, like, yeah, don't get me wrong, we don't have that many serious chats about anything, but sometimes we do. Sometimes we'll all be in the car on the way there and we'll just talk about whatever's going on, about shit with work or with relationships or anything else. And I still keep in touch with all my best mates back home. If I have any issue, if I have something that I really need to talk about, I ring them for an hour or whatever, and they do the same to me. And I truly believe that that's one of the main reasons why I have such a tight grip on my mental health, and why I feel like I'm able to overcome any problem that happens. If I got my leg blown off tomorrow, I'm confident I could deal with it. If I went blind, I'm confident I could deal with it, right? Because I've got the people around me, and I'm confident in my own ability to speak to them and open up to them. So if there's one thing that you can take home, it's that treat your mates as where your mates would treat you the same way that you treat them. You'd want it for them, and you'd happily take that call for them. So assume that they're going to do the same for you, because they will.
Man, I fucking love that. And what a great way to finish, because I'm a big believer with all of this kind of rise in suicidality and increased mental health crisis, that conversation is the intervention.
Yeah.
I believe just releasing, I'm hating, fuck, I'm hating too, brother. It's there. And people say, oh, some people won't want to listen to me. If they are your true friend, which you should know, they will fucking want to listen.
Yeah, of course they will.
So, mate, I'll follow that up. Always reach out to a brother, because once you drop the mask, usually that other person's got problems too, and they'll go, thank fuck you've dropped the mask first. I can now drop my mask. Let's fucking get into this. Let's do some deep stuff instead of this surface bullshit, you know?
That's it, man. That's it. They will. 1,000%.
Yeah. All right, mate. Well, look, what a fantastic chat. As I said, I could talk to you all day.
Yeah,
We'll have
likewise, man.
another podcast here. But yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the gym, because you go my fucking gym now, which is great. You're like a yellow card. I'd never seen you before. I
Yeah,
see you all
you're
the
the
fucking.
exact same. Like
I
this
see
big,
all.
huge fucking 6'2" jack bloke. I was like, how the fuck have I never seen you before?
All right, mate. Well, look, really appreciate you. Thanks for the chat. And yeah, well, I'll see you in the gym, mate.
Likewise, mate. Good to speak to you.
Cheers, brother.
All right, catch you in a bit.